Everyone, and welcome to our third Charging Smart cohort session. I will be going over the utility engagement category, and we do have a few special guests. So I would like to introduce Ian Perkins-Smith from Encore, as well as Caitlin Sweeney and Carly Doolittle from IREC. So thank y'all for being here. Yeah, okay, I'll just get started. So here's the agenda for today. First, I'll go over the cohort structure and timeline, and then I'll do some peer updates. So I'll ask y'all how y'all have been doing, if y'all have any questions, comments, accomplishments, challenges, anything like that. And then I do have some general updates on my side, and then I'll hand this presentation over to Encore for their slide presentation. And then I'll go back to regular programming and go over the bronze designation requirements. And then I'll go through some utility engagement criteria actions. And then we'll follow it up with a group discussion and the homework assignment, as well as scheduling the next session, because we'll have to change it up a little bit. So we have already completed two cohort sessions. This is our third one, so we are halfway there. The next two will cover education and incentives in May or possibly early June. And then the last one will cover government operations and shared mobility as the finale. So on to peer updates. I will just call on y'all. Only one person from each city has to speak and give their updates. But just in general, have y'all seen any progress on the criteria actions since the last cohort session? And have you seen any successes accomplished or any challenges encountered? And then while y'all are doing that, I'm going to take a quick informal poll. And so I'll comment in the chat, Google Drive, and another comment will be Teams channel. So if y'all could like the comment of the platform that you like to use, that would be helpful for me to gauge just for the future. But yeah, I'll just call on people who I see on my screen. So Santasha Pratt, could you go first?
Updates on progress. I'm pitiful. So
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I'm a little slow, I'm being honest. But I will tell you that some of the things, because I'm becoming kind of like a one-person show and doing this, and pushing us forward. I did have a meeting with our management team, and I was able to share that we did our self-score, our assessment, and was able to achieve, of course, the bronze level. And so the next step is moving towards the silver designation. And how do we get there? So we're definitely planning out and having discussions internally about where our next charging stations could go. My latest response was to Carolyn about a couple of places that we've identified here, city-owned properties that we could possibly put those, and where they would be the most widely valued by our public and accessible. So we have identified those, and they would be really, really great spots for that. Some other accomplishments that we have is that we had a grant that we had gotten for charging station and for EV charging vehicles. And so we've managed to get our equipment back with the vehicles. We've been able to get the charging station installed. And now we're just waiting for the reimbursement from the Department of Energy. So we do look for other funding sources, that's going to be that we knew will be a complement to this process. So as far as preferring Google or Teams channel, I've been forced to get used to Teams. I'll be the first to say I hate it, but I have to get used to it. But I guess I'd prefer Teams over Google.
I forgot to put those in the chat earlier. Regarding the bronze designation, I think I do remember sending over your scorecard with all the recommended actions. I think y'all did complete a few actions. Y'all just need to get the verification documentation in the scorecard, so then we could confirm that.
Okay.
But yeah, I love that y'all have already installed an EV charger. I know you can get points for that. I think it's either 15 or 20 points in the government operations category. So if you have like a picture of that charger, um, or like an invoice to which you were able to buy that charger through, that would be good, like verification
Okay.
documentation as like kind of proof. Um, but yeah, it sounds like you're doing good on that end. And if you need any help, you can always reach out to me, email me. Um,
Would
yeah,
that apply to our previous chargers that we've had installed prior to this program?
yes, absolutely. As long
Okay.
as they're still up and running, that absolutely counts. Yeah.
I might be at gold status and don't know.
We're hoping.
Yeah,
You,
we've
you,
got we got
you're
we've
not as
got
bad off as you thought you were.
right. Yeah, we have quite a few. But Mosquito's growing leaps and bounds, and I don't mean to dominate the conversation, but we're expanding. We've got some great businesses that have just come here and then been embedded here, and so our southern sector, in particular, is just growing because we sprawl out into Kaufman County. And so it's now becoming where we need to serve that end of the community a lot more. And then just some things that we were doing along I-20 that would really open up, the opportunity for charging stations to be there down I-20 in Mesquite, where there's a new quick trip. It's newer. So the exposure is there. We just need to capitalize on that. And so it's happening. It's just going to be a process, but thank you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Quick question. Santosha, is that the
Santasha.
quick trip? Oh, Santosha, excuse me.
Yes.
Is that the quick trip near Lassiter Road?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect. I'll tell my parents.
Okay, come on over.
Love that. Smart world. Okay, well, thank you for your updates. I will choose Daryl Brown next. And I
I
love
knew
that
you was
you're
gonna
able
do that.
to come to this cohort session. I know you
Thank
usually
you.
have like a civil um commitment that you usually have, but thanks for coming.
Yes. Well, I'm out of town, as I was telling Santasha and Kobe earlier, and so I'm in Bernie, Texas, and today visiting on our visitors bureau. And so anyway, I took a break, and I told them I've got to get a part of this work session from charging station, or Carolyn's gonna kick me out, and I don't want to be kicked out. So I'm here today. I was hoping though that I would be the last one you'd call on, because then we'd be out of time, and then I could just say, okay, I'll catch you next round. But you didn't. You got me number two, so here we are. We'll tell you our actions, criteria actions that we've worked on. We have identified, our charging station location. We did apply or send in a request that we would be interested in also placing charging stations out at our airport location. So we did get that email submitted. We are working on let's see. We are working on some of those action items that we had. Carolyn, to my knowledge, is we needed to review our zoning requirements, things along those
Mhm.
lines, and identify restrictions that intentionally. So some of those that you see, we needed to adopt a standard EV charging infrastructure non-residents policy, I guess, or ordinance. Put it
Mhm.
on our website. Develop charging infrastructure permitting, and then meet with utilities to discuss EV collaboration and opportunities. And so I've gotten with my development department, and so they have given me that information. I just haven't submitted it yet for us to kind of put that in from our self-assessment that we had. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Great, awesome. Well, it's good to hear. So you met with your planning and development part?
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
okay, so you're working on the permitting process. I know that's two of the regulatory tasks kind of relate to that. So that's what y'all are working on, the permitting process?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Those were the
awesome.
things that I think out on our self-assessment documents that we needed to do that we didn't have, if I'm correct on that.
Yeah, I believe a lot of people haven't done that. It's kind of rare, or at least in Texas, I think. A lot of people to get the permit for like an EV charging station. The lights just turned off in this room. I don't know why. Anyways, yeah, usually I believe people go through just the general electrical permit process, which is a bit
Right.
more vague and it might require some more work on that end. But that's the whole purpose of having a, a very specific permitting process, specifically for EV charging stations. Well, it's good to hear. I'm glad that you're working and connecting with other relevant departments. Um, okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, I'll choose Colby France next.
Hey, how are y'all doing? Colby Frantz, Fleet Services Manager, City of Grand Prairie. So updates on our criteria actions have been 0. So I'm gonna have to twist some arms and get some other folks in here. I tried to politely do that in between these since the last session, but it's gonna take a little more than that because our environmental team, they do most of our air quality stuff. I think they can make some progress with the permitting issues. But as far as accomplishments and challenges, right now we just issued an RFP for EV charging infrastructure suppliers, vendors. So if y'all talk to anybody that sounds good, send them our way. We're posted on Planet Bids, and that'll be open, I think, for 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. Um, so we currently have 500,000 set aside for EV charging that we're looking to spend. I know we spoke with Carolyn yesterday, try to look at some of the grant funding, possibly for DC fast chargers, because I know those are going to cost a bit more than the level 2s. We have 4 level 2s in addition to our existing 20 going into a new building right now. And then our public health team, they used some grant funding they had to buy 2 of the big solar powered standalone EV chargers. So they're 2 ports each. So we have 4 100% solar powered chargers that I think once they get the chargers commissioned, will be live and able to use. So we want to do that because they, for environmental standpoint, but also, and no dig at Encore. But if we have a site, we need to have some charging for our fleet vehicles where we don't have a transformer yet or something. It's kind of a stopgap measure. So they're mobile and can be transported on a flatbed tow truck. Really, I think that's about it.
Okay, yeah, no worries that you haven't really completed any specific tasks. But so yeah, we do want to focus on the required bronze actions, but
Yeah.
since y'all have already installed some EV chargers, and I think you might have some EVs on your city fleet, you can also get points for those.
Right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. That shouldn't be too much of a heavy lift, to get the proof of that. But yeah, it sounds like y'all have already completed some actions. So that's great. Um, okay, Tanner Corsi, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm going to leave my camera off today. Sorry, I'm at home and have some renovations going on in the background.
No worries.
Super stressful if y'all have ever lived through that, trying to live in a home that's completely torn up. But not a ton to report from the last time that we met. I've just had a lot of meetings with different departments. So this week I met with our fleet team, to discuss starting to gather some of the required documents. I got one of the photos of our electrified light duty vehicles uploaded for verification. Did want to really quickly just ask for a point of clarification because I maybe had a misunderstanding. So we have some EV charger stalls installed at the city of Arlington, but they are municipal fleet only. And it looked like, just from a brief overview, it looked like for the EV chargers, it was either they had to be publicly accessible or they had to be like staff reserved. And I interpreted that to be like employees for their personal use, like personal vehicles, but maybe I misunderstood that. So I would be super happy to hear that it like municipal fleet also qualify or chargers for those for points, because that's some extra points we could get. Um, Also met with our planning and development services director and a few from her team to start discussing the bronze requirements related to zoning review, permitting. So that team has some deliverables back to me next month. And then working with our communications team to get a website created for us to be able to house some of the different information and maps and links, and as we start to move through kind of centralizing a lot of this information. So nothing super tangible, just lots of kind of keeping balls in the air and coordinating with different people across the city to keep stuff moving. And I'm with the city of Arlington, by the way. I forgot to say that in the beginning. That's it.
Okay. Awesome, that sounds good. And I know in the last cohort session, you shared kind of the Excel spreadsheet that you were working on.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've been doing a lot of coordinating and working with other departments. I think that's like one of the big first steps to kind of get things going. So it's good to hear that. Your question about if EV chargers specific to municipal fleets, if those count for points, I'm looking through the scorecard and I might want some weigh in from Caitlin if you'd like to cover this. Um,
Yeah. Unfortunately, I do not think we have criteria that will give you points for that, just because a primary goal of this program is to invite private companies into your market and bring in EV charging. So while it is really important to charge your fleets internally, and those do align with goals you have, we don't necessarily have criteria specific to charging your particular fleets. However, if your chargers are attached to a clean energy resource, you can get points for that. So if you're in a unique situation where, maybe your chargers are run from solar energy, then there's a potential for you to get points there. And I'll dive into the criteria again just to double check that that is the case. But unfortunately, I do not think so.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for looking into that.
Yeah, it sounds like I think Arlington already has EVs on their city fleet, so you can get points for that as well in the same government operations category. Um, yeah, thank you for all your work. Sounds like you're doing great. Um, I will go over to Gerald Duque.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Gerald Duque, I'm with the City of Richland Hills. I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services. We are not making, substantial progress. We're very aware of what our next action items are. We're pursuing the bronze designation, and so we know that we've got to knock out the memo, the permit process adoption, and then a permitting checklist. I have spoken with Caroline recently, and we are making effort and trying to make time to start knocking these items out, but again, we haven't necessarily completed any one of them yet, but it is on the to-do list, and we have every intention of hopefully making it happen in the next couple of weeks here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Gerald, you're from where again?
Richland Hills?
Richland Hills. Okay. Sorry.
No worries.
All right, well, that sounds good. Yeah, as long as you are working at it and keeping with those intentions, that's all you need. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, city manager's office. I believe that is Melissa with Louisville.
Yes, it is. Hi, Carolyn. Nice to see you again. So City of Louisville, so far last week we actually met with our utilities provider where we have a huge TNMP presence in the city of Louisville. So we actually met with them last week, had a great conversation with them. And I think both sides, learned a little bit more than we had anticipated. So that was really great to be able to connect with them. And it also offered some really good collaboration potential for the future. So looking forward to being able to do that. And presently, we have a big public event that is happening this weekend called Colorpalooza. And I am coordinated with our fleet and facilities, and we are having some of our electric fleet vehicles brought to the event. We are hosting a sustainability booth, and we are going to have information about EVs and EV chargers and financial incentives that can be provided to those that are looking to purchase a vehicle or install a personal charger themselves. So working on that education and outreach requirement for this weekend.
That sounds awesome. And I remember looking over kind of the memo that you included for when you met with TNMP, and it looked like y'all talked about the solar programs, energy efficiency programs, and you might be collaborating with them further on some other programs.
Yes, so when we spoke to them, they didn't have anything that was specifically for EVs or EV chargers. However, they did have like a subsequent incentive tie-in that they already have an existing solar program that's for energy efficiency department that their team is working on. And as part, if somebody qualifies for the solar incentives, then they can also get a secondary incentive for an EV charging station, which would include the basically gift of a charging handle. So when we kind of talked to them about our ideas for having more publicly accessible charging stations, that kind of kickstarted an idea behind, well, maybe they could actually build a program that was more focused on not necessarily having a solar requirement first, but specifically going to EV chargers themselves and offering incentives there. So that was what I was considering really neat, and an idea of future collaboration of, hey, if we get more people involved that do use TNMP primarily, then maybe they can also kind of give that push, and then TNMP can make a program for it. So that was one of the things we thought was a real good opportunity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that sounds great. That was really the whole purpose of meeting with your utility. So I'm so glad that y'all are making connections there and going to collaborate further. And also the Color Palooza, I think the event was called. That sounds super fun. I might go and see the tent or the table that y'all have, especially if y'all are going to include like some of your electrified city fleet
Our own
vehicles there.
fleet. Yes, we're planning on having around 3 vehicles there for people to, look under the hood and just be able to provide some additional information about if they need it.
Awesome. Well, that sounds super fun. I love the developments that y'all are making, the progress. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. Okay. I think I'll call on Brandon Wright next.
All right, good morning, everyone. Brandon Wright in Trophy Club. So this month we've just been kind of catching up a little bit. So we finished our commitment letter, we got the self-assessment done. We've drafted up our vision statement as well for that. So that's really kind of what we've been focusing on right now. And then we'll kind of, over the next month, we're going to start to try and tackle some of the main items there. So not much more to report other than that. Haven't really, those are just haven't really encountered a lot of challenges on the question there. Do you prefer Google Drive or Teams channel? On the Teams part of it, for some reason, the QR code won't work at all for me on it. So I can't get that Teams thing to load on my computer. I don't know if anyone else had any issues with that. So
The QR code, do you mean the link or?
well, yeah, when I go onto there, then it's like to get access to it, it's wanting me to scan a QR code and then set up that thing, but for some reason it's just not setting up. So it like doesn't recognize the QR code at all on it. It just says it doesn't even recognize the code for anything. So
Okay, I might email you separately to try
okay.
and get that
The
figured
Google
out.
Drive is working fine though. So no, I've just used the Google Drive.
Okay, okay. Uh, that's good to hear. I didn't know that there was an issue with, and also
Getting
that there
that.
was a presence
I
of
just can't
like a
get
QR
access
code.
to it for some reason. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, I will email you about that and
Okay.
hopefully we can figure that out. But it's great to hear that y'all are working on your EV vision. So that should be sufficient for the planning category. Of course, you need 10 points there. I'm just curious, are y'all drafting that EV vision from scratch, or are you taking inspiration from some of the community examples in the program guide?
Yes, so we used all the examples on there and kind of took those as the base case, and then and then just kind of doctored around what we think our community really is looking for from the EV perspective on that, which for ours is a little bit more just about the idea of quality of life. It's about the adoption of EVs in our town and our area here, and how it is that from a neighborhood kind of a residential stock perspective, how easy is it for those who have adopted EV in their personal lives to have access within our town on that part of it. That's really the big main push for it. So
Absolutely, yeah. Um, Increased or better quality of life, better air quality, that sort of thing. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. That sounds like great progress. Um, I think we may have one more person. Jody Kaysen, or are you from Grand Prairie as well?
I'm from Grand Prairie as well.
Okay, I was just making sure. Um, well, Colby spoke for y'all already, but I'm glad that you joined as well. I think I already called on everyone. So thank you everyone for sharing. I'll just continue on with my slides. Um, So now onto some general updates. I have updated both the Google Drive and the Teams channel with IREX memo of exceptions and assistance. So one exception that really applies to us is Encore's evolution sessions. So I know it was a little bit up in the air in the beginning whether or not, like if you attended an evolution session, would that count for you 1.1 meeting with your utility? And so yes, it does. And also if you're unsure of whether certain details or tasks, whether certain things will count towards um, a criteria action, you can always go to this memo and see more details. And you can also ask me as well. So yeah, that is one new thing that we have. And then on my side, I have been compiling a lot of regional examples for different criteria actions. So for example, I know that our utilities in Texas, they can't really explicitly provide a lot of EV incentives, but retail electric providers can. So I've been compiling a list of retail electric providers that have EV plans. So think TXU. I know they have free charging at night for EV drivers, and then I think Reliant has a similar plan. So I've been compiling all those REPs, and I will include all of those in a document, like a Word document that I'll post on the Teams channel and the Google Drive. And I know in the last cohort session, we talked about some mobility 2050 resources about specifically maps that show gaps in EV charging. So I'll be including those maps as well. And also Mobility 2050, the draft is now publicly available online at the NCTCOG website. So if you don't want to wait for me to post this resource, you can always go to the NCTCOG website. But I'll be including a ton of other local or regional resources, so that will be helpful for y'all, I'm hoping. Onto the CFI community grant. I know I've spoken to or reached out to a few of y'all to get some charging site locations. Yeah, overall, we have gotten $15 million to install EV charging stations at public locations. So these are free EV charging stations. And so if y'all have any specific sites in your cities, please reach out to me and we will include that in our list. So yeah, I just wanted to bring attention to that. And also there's a lot in common with the CFI community grant, or a lot of overlap with the CFI community grant and Charging Smart. So for the CFI community grant, we have been making maps and pinpointing potential locations in different cities. And so that overlaps a lot with Charging Smart, because for a few criteria actions, you'll have to make a map and pinpoint desirable or suitable locations for charging stations. So I just wanted to point that out. And then lastly, specialized TA is available. I know I've talked with a few cities here. Yeah, and then Jared had just posted more details in the chat about CFI community. Anyways, I know I've spoken with a few of y'all and agreed to do some cities zoning review memos. I would just like to reiterate that that is available for all cities here. I know a lot of y'all can get really busy with other projects, other programs. So I just wanted to make that clear that I can help y'all with the zoning review memo and then send it back to you, and just to have you review it and make sure everything's right and that sort of thing. Okay.
Carolyn, can you send us just an example of the zoning review memo at first, or would you rather it be where we're sending you what we have and then you check over it, or is there a sample template that we can kind of use to help speed that process up? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so there is actually an example from I think a city in Missouri. It might be Missoula. So the city of Missoula, they have already completed their zoning review memo, and so I have posted that document in both the Google Drive and the
I should have
Teams channel.
known. Okay,
Yes, but
thank you.
yeah, of course. But yeah, either you can complete the zoning review memo if you would like, or I can kind of take that on and fill out the template and then kind of send it back to you for you to double check in case I missed anything and kind of approve of. And then that should be sufficient for the first bronze required action in the regulation category. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out again. Okay, now I will hand over the presentation to Ian, and I have all the slides here, so you can just tell me when you'd like to go to the next slide.
That's perfect. Thank you, Carolyn. And thanks everyone for having me here. Glad that cities are focusing on EVs and EV infrastructure. So let me just jump right into it. You can go to the next slides. My name is Ian Perkins Smith. I am a project manager for the Transportation Electrification Department here at Encore. And you can go to the next slide. This presentation is to kind of give an overview of, alluding to what Carolyn was talking about earlier with Texas's regulatory environment and how different parts of the power chain or power flow are regulated or deregulated. So Encore being a regulated utility, a transmission distribution utility, we have a lot of restrictions on what they call competitive services, but we'll get into some things that we are able to offer a little later into the presentation. But as Carolyn mentioned, we do a program called Evolution, and we now, at this point, we do it quarterly. So there will be a session coming up in about a month or two, and I'd love to get all your emails to be able to send out an invite if anyone can make it. But that program is called Evolution, and we started that because our manager, Jennifer Deaton, used to be on the corporate strategy team for Encore, and she was noticing a lot of trends surrounding EVs in regard to how many or EV adoption rates or just increase in registrations. There are certain legislative considerations, through different presidential administrations, the attitude towards EVs can change, but overall, across the past 2 or 3 presidential administrations, EVs have been increasing in popularity. So Jennifer was noticing trends, and also noticed that a lot of people were coming to Encore not able to find the right team to help them out with their EV projects. And so those are a couple things that inspired Evolution. And now we have this great program where business customers, municipal customers such as yourselves can come to us directly. And we also bring other teams that are involved in the Encore part of, installing a battery, or installing a EV charger at a site, because we do everything up to the meter. So anything past the meter, is on the responsibility of the customer. But anything, if we need a trench, or someone mentioned a transformer earlier, anything like that, you work with us on that. And so that's kind of the purpose of Evolution, to help make sure people have a one-stop shop to make sure they know exactly what to do to take care of their part of the grid, so that power doesn't go out, unexpectedly. That's basically one of our biggest aims. So you can go to the next slide, and you can just click all the way through. Yeah. So the first thing I want to go over is a few resources that we have. We do have a website, encore.com/EV. That's a great place to just have a great launching pad for different resources that relate to EV. Say you want an interconnection, we have a link to that Encore website on our website. We also publish, and this is another change to quarterly, but we do publish newsletters. The next newsletter will be coming out at around the same time or a little before our next Evolution session. So that's also on a quarterly basis now. We do meet with customers directly. I have met with people who work at private companies, people who work at cities and municipalities such as yourselves. They reach out. We are here to fulfill our purpose of serving any customer within our service area that needs an energized site. And we just want to make sure that the process on both ends goes as smoothly as possible. So very open to meeting with customers to discuss any questions you might have, TE topics, expectations around projects, or just redirection if you don't know where to go. And then last, just to re-emphasize, we do have our Evolution sessions, which happen on a quarterly basis now. And those are just, I've seen people come in with tons of questions and leave happy, and people leave with more questions, which is also good, because then you at least have a point of contact at Encore. So any part of the process, whether you are installing a charger or you're preparing to increase your fleet from, say, 1 to 7, EVs, just as a random example, exactly who to contact to make sure that you can get you can have the capacity, the electric capacity you need at that site. So those are a few resources we have to help you out. And you can go on to the next slide. And then just a quick overview of Encore. I mentioned the regulated environment that we have. On the graphic on the right, you can see where that transmission and distribution utility. So we just have a few extra rules. We're governed by the PUC. They let us know kind of what we can do, how much we can charge for our tariff recovery costs, and how much we charge for basically being the FedEx of the electricity power chain, since all we do is deliver the electricity. We don't make it, we don't sell it. So almost none of y'all have ever paid Encore anything, so because we recover that cost through reps or REPs. So that's just a quick breakdown of the electricity market in Texas and kind of Encore's role in it. And you can pop over to the next slide. Another overview of where we serve millions of people, 13 million plus Texans, and that comes out to about 4 million premises. And we go all the way over to West Texas as well. So we have a big service area. We are the biggest transmission distribution utility in the state. So we do our absolute best and are currently initiating projects to make sure that the grid, the parts of the grid that we handle are as resilient and durable as possible. So that's a quick overview of where we serve. And you can go to the next slide. We have a few initiatives and just focuses to make sure that we are supporting the growth in Texas. We have a CapEx plan. It's about $30 billion that we're using to invest in the grid, to harden it, to make sure it is as reliable as possible, to reduce the potential of of any outages. And as I said, there's multiple initiatives to help us achieve that. But over the past 10, 20 years, we've seen record growth in Texas. People are moving here like crazy from all states and parts of the world. So we, being the largest, essentially, controller of the grid, supporter of the grid through our service territory, we have a big job to do to make sure that the grid is just as reliable as possible, because everybody needs electricity. So that is a little bit about what we're doing to make sure we're keeping up with the growth that's going on in Texas. You can pop over to the next slide. And this graph is just a quick visual display of the trends that we're seeing in EV chargers. That top line is the whole country. Orange line is going to be California. They're going to be ahead for a while because they really took that early bet on EVs. But Texas and Florida and New York are pretty similar. And you can see that the trend is slowly increasing, and it's kind of downplayed because of the national line you see at the top. But there is an increasing number of EV chargers across those 4 states. And I think it's really interesting to point out just how different the, maybe perceived attitudes are, considering the different, political environments or regulatory environments across those states. But just these top 4 states show that doesn't really matter, where in the country or, type of makeup or demographics you have, EV interest is growing. So you can pop over to the next slide as well. So with EV interest growing, we just always like to do a little quick education. There are basically 2 types of chargers. Network chargers, those are ones where you can collect payment, you can register with a RFID or things like that. There's just extra capabilities outside of plugging in and taking the charger out of a vehicle, which is essentially all that you can do with a non-networked charger. So just a quick breakdown between what some people call smart and dumb chargers. And you can go to the next slide. Quick overview of technologies for charging. I heard a couple of these mentioned previously in the meeting, but there are, solar panels, they are still gaining popularity. More and more people are getting them. You can use those to kind of offset your pull from the grid, as well as there's mobile charging. So say you have, just random example, catering business, you have a catering business and you have to go across town to deliver something, fulfill an order. You could have a battery, kind of charging route for your EV, so that while you're at the event, you can charge, and then you don't have to be in one specific place. So things like that. And then there's also storage, batteries that are stationary, but can also reduce your pull on the grid, especially if you use them in conjunction with solar panels. That works for some people, but it just depends. So just highlighting some other charging technologies that are available. for you to use. Go ahead to the next slide, please. And then I briefly mentioned interconnection earlier in the presentation, but our distributed generation department at Encore handles interconnection, which is basically letting the electricity at a given site flow both ways, taking and putting back into the grid. So say you have solar panels and you have a surplus of electricity, setting up an interconnection will put that electricity back into the grid and, you know, benefit you in one or two ways. So that's a quick overview of distributed generation. Just making sure. Okay, go ahead to the next slide, please. And yes, this is a process that every EV project will go through. So I'm just going to do a quick rundown. As you can see, the green is Encore's responsibility and the blue is customer's responsibility. So first thing you got to do is reach out. And Carolyn, if it hasn't been already, definitely feel free to blast my information to everybody in the group so that they do have a contact whenever projects start. But after a customer reaches out, essentially what happens is our EV design team will take your requirements, your site plan, things like that, whatever is included in the work order you create on their new construction portal. They'll give it to another team to verify it. And when they get that back and all the details are verified, they, if necessary, will order any equipment, a transformer, for example, that you might need. And depending on what the project is, they'll start construction while they're waiting for that transformer, or, you know, just depending on the timelines. But once that transformer is ordered and transformers are, they have a pad mount transformers have a lead time of around 18 weeks right now, which is really good. That's down about 10 weeks. At the beginning of the year, it was about 30 weeks, 28 to 30 weeks for a transformer. So it's come down considerably. And our team also sometimes has ad hoc ways to speed up that process. You know, there's never a guarantee, but they do their best to make sure that they get you a transformer if you need it for a project as soon as they can. So once your details are confirmed, the design team will order any equipment necessary, and then work with construction teams to make sure that any trenching or, you know, just any construction preparation, upgrades that are necessary to the site are done to make sure that the capacity that's needed for the incoming project is able to come into that site so we can properly energize what you need. You know, just once again, fulfilling our responsibility as a transmission distribution utility to energize any customer within our service area. And that is essentially a basic breakdown of this new commercial construction process. Generally, the entire process will take about 2 to 3 months. The actual construction will be about 6 to 8 weeks. That's the general estimate. It could be less time. It could be more time. As we all know, projects rarely run on time. So we all hope it's early, but just one piece of advice we have for that is to keep open communication with your project manager. If you have any questions, and I didn't mention that earlier, excuse me, you are assigned a project manager for each project you have, and, you know, and that is that dedicated team of EV designers. But definitely always feel free to reach out to them with any questions. They're great. Our team works closely with them, and they are super knowledgeable people. And they're fully dedicated to EV projects. So once you get assigned a project manager, always never hesitate to reach out. But yeah, that is a quick breakdown of the new construction process. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. And then a really quick breakdown of energy efficiency, energy conservation. Conserving energy is just the lack of use. Energy efficiency is using energy in a more efficient manner. The average transformer lead time right now for a pad mount 3-phase, and I'm answering a question in the chat, is 18 weeks right now. So Yes. But yeah, just a quick breakdown on energy efficiency here, and to um, call out programs that we can offer. Soon, I think within the coming weeks or the next couple months, our energy efficiency department, which is a special team that is allowed to incentivize literally energy efficiency. And now they have a new program that they're going to add to their incentive site that allows you to get a $100 rebate on a specific charger. The brand name is slipping me, but I will share that link with Carolyn, and she can blast that out with my information as well. So that is a new program and something our energy efficiency manager, Tim, has been working towards getting. And he's just done a really great job. So in our energy efficiency department, that's something that we are really excited that is coming. So yeah, quick overview there. You can go to the next slide. Oh yeah, energy efficiency program offerings. Here's a bunch of other program offerings we have. There's residential options, commercial options. So if you're getting an efficient water heater for your house, you probably qualify for something. If you're getting I forget if there's a certain set of equipment for a dining area in a building that you have, that is something else that energy efficiency has programs for. But they have a total of about 18 different programs. So they have their website, Take a Load Off Texas, and they have all their programs there. You can also submit an idea for a new energy efficiency program. They do work with one-off ideas, as long as it just fits the guidelines and kind of rules that they have to work within. But they're a really great team, so they do all this work, and they're really good. And you can also stack. So if there is another program outside of Encore that gives you a reward or incentive for, say, the same water heater that you want to qualify for at your home, that's totally fine. You can double dip. This is one place where you can do that. So yeah, quick overview of the energy efficiency program offerings. Go ahead, go to the next slide, please. Any questions? Thank you all so much for listening. I didn't want to take up too much time. I know we're coming up on time here, so want to make sure we had room for any questions, comments, anything you might have.
Any questions, anyone? And thank you, Ian, for presenting. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, if you don't have any questions, excuse me, I do have one question. I'm just gonna go back. So it says that you have like an EV project team that helps the customer with like the charging station or the charging site design plan. So where does permitting come into this, or is that completely on the city side?
Right. So permitting will come, well, if somehow no permits already acquired by the time you reach out to Encore, that's perfect. But the first thing is to find out what permits you need, who you need them from. And that's something that can happen as you're submitting the work order. Because another thing to consider is easements. If you're leasing the land or the city that you're working with doesn't own the land that they're putting a site on, you need to make sure you need to see if you need an easement from the property owner to make sure that we can actually perform the work that we may need to on a site. And then permits and inspections are the same. That would be on the responsibility of the customer, especially if, oh yes, so that would be in the third row in that blue square on the left. Customer obtains city inspection and request move-in order from their electrical retail provider, and that's after all the civil work is done. But yeah, just basically as soon as you can, because as we know, permitting and paperwork can red tape like that can slow down a project. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that explains a lot.
Okay.
I was kind of thinking that
Of course.
how can a permit be actually finalized if the plans for the site aren't finalized as well? But that does explain a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
hmm Yeah. And that's why I was like, if somehow before you submit your work order, you can get that secured. Because, there's varying levels of how detailed certain, teams can like have the ability to be on the front end when making their plans. And it just depends on the resources you have, the experience of the team members you have. And just to call out, I misspoke earlier. Generally, the timeline is 4 to 6 weeks for construction to begin. Just wanted to call that out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
So one last call for questions for Ian. Okay, I know we're coming up on time, but I really did want to at least cover getting peer updates from all the cities in this cohort, and also have Ian from Encore present because he always has a bunch of great information. I did have a few slides, but since I'll be sending these slides out later and the recording will also be available, I'll just go to both the group discussion. So if any cities here have any questions for me, for IREC, for Encore, and also before everyone drops off, I would like to schedule the next session. So I think the next session right now, it's scheduled for I think May 29th, but I cannot make that. So I was thinking either June 4th at 10 a.m. or June 5th at 11 a.m. So do y'all have any preference on either time?
And I have to drop, but thank y'all so much for listening. Carolyn will send those slides out, but y'all have a great day and weekend. Bye.
Yes. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
Bye, have a good one. Okay, so does anyone have
I'm
any
not in
preference?
favor Thursday, as you know, but that's just because, like I said, I've got those civic engagement things that I'm involved in. But I'm with the group. I started with the group. I'll finish with the group.
Absolutely. So, okay, awesome. So it sounds like we can accommodate more people if we do Wednesday, June 4th at 10 a.m. So if no one objects, I will make that change in schedule. But yeah, we are now up on time. I know I skipped a few slides, but I'll send out the slides. And the recording should be available up on the DFW Clean Cities website. And I'll also send out Ian's information. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming. I think we had some great discussions, a lot of great information to talk about. Okay, well, thank you everyone. Y'all have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks, Carolyn.
You.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi, good seeing everybody.
Good seeing you.